Hi, I'm Aaron Wynn,
I'm Duffie Dixon with Duffie Dixon Media.
and welcome back to our ongoing series where we talk with special guests about mastering video conferencing.
That's right. We have Tricia Molloy who is joining us, and she is a corporate leadership speaker. And Tricia, you have done all sorts of speaking across the US, and it is usually in person. Tell us a little bit about what you present.
So I am an expert on developing a positive mindset to reduce stress, to achieve goals, and to enjoy better balance. And I usually am on stage, either at a conference or perhaps at a company, sharing these strategies with employees. But lately I've been doing my programs virtually.
Yeah, you've had to pivot quite a bit. That's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on today, because we realize it's a completely different format. And so you have to change some of your perspective of what you're doing. One of the first things that we wanted to find out about was understanding the platforms. You know, it's different than being on a stage. A stage could be a stage, but there's still left and right sides. What are some of the different platforms that you work with?
So it could be Zoom, it could be WebEx, it could be GoToMeeting. There are many platforms out there, and each of them has different features. And those features seem to change from day to day. And a lot of the features are called different things. Like on one platform, it might be a chat box, another it's a Q&A. So it's important to understand the platforms and then choose the one that makes the most sense for you.
And is that something you talk about with the company you're speaking to? And once you decide what format you're going to use, are you in charge of doing everything? Do you lead it? Do you speak? Do you run your slides? How does that work?
I would never want to have all that responsibility. So
Good answer. Good answer.
so typically I'm considered the talent, and then we have someone who produces and co-hosts, and sometimes there's a chat box monitor as well. So the idea is that everybody plays a role, and we figure out what those roles are, and everyone's comfortable with that. And then we make sure that we have at least one run through. So we can go through lighting, we can go through how the slides are going to work, when I'm going to ask questions, so that the co-host knows what I'll ask of that person as we wait for people to start typing into the chat box so that it flows well.
So Aaron, you've been on a number of calls with this chat box. Tell me your experience with it, because sometimes it works great and sometimes it's like crickets, and I feel so badly for the person speaking. They'll ask something and everyone's just like deers. It's like deer in the headlights for everybody.
Right.
Well, I think the key is really having partnership. So one of the reasons why I love partnering with you on these videos is that it's easier to divide and conquer, much like what Tricia talked about when you're doing presentations. Chat boxes, they can be fantastic to have in terms of engagement with your audience. And if you're taking the time to actually coordinate with your producer to share questions in advance so that they understand, hey, at this point within the presentation, I want to make sure that you put this question out there, because I really hope to be able to get some kind of feedback from the audience as I'm presenting. Tricia, have you experienced that as well?
Certainly, and sometimes I'll do a little preview of a question. Like I might say something like, we're going to talk about the power of affirmations. And so I want you to think about what your go-to affirmation is to keep calm and confident during uncertain times. And so then I'll start to talk about what an affirmation is and how to craft one and how to use it. And by that time, hopefully, enough people have started to type in what their affirmation is. And I might go to the co-host as well and ask them to comment. So you want to give them the participants enough time to be ready to start to type in their comments and questions.
So this is very much, go ahead, Aaron, you were going to ask something.
Well, I was gonna ask, you were talking about the practice and the presentation, but I was curious to find out about, understanding your space. I've heard your square, or
Yes.
having eye contact with the audience. Can you share a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So, it takes some practice, but you want to really warm up to that little lens, of your webcam. And maybe even imagine that behind that lens is your best friend, so that you're speaking just one-on-one to that person. That helps a lot. Also, too, we all have a square. So there's a lot of space here that we can use in different ways. So when I'm trying to create more of an intimate conversation with those who are on my virtual programs, I might come in closer to the camera. If I'm asking for others to share, I might go back a little bit. If I'm talking about the future, I might go to this side and talk about the future. If I'm talking about the past, I might do that. Those are some of the tricks that good speakers will do on a stage. And for right now, this is our stage.
And I'll our small little stage.
That's right.
I will say that, Tricia, that, you know, when we do our video tips for how to do video conferencing, you know, I really like people sit up straight, fill the square, right? So there's not a lot of headroom, things like that. But for you, and I've watched you do these presentations, you lean in, you're a listener, you're a very active listener. So Aaron, you'll notice she'll lean in, well, I'm too close to the camera, but she'll lean in. For anyone else that would seem weird to me, but it works because it feels like through the screen she's listening. And that's the thing. This is such a different medium. You have these people who speak on big stages are excellent at that. You're right, working the stage, but this is a different medium. You really do have to make it as personal as you can. And that leads us to being an active listener. We talked a little bit about that. Tricia, what do you do? Do you want to see other people on the screen when you're speaking? How many people do you want on the screen? And have you experimented with that?
I have, and I really leave it up to, so if I'm doing virtual programs for my clients, I leave it up to them. Depending on the nature of the group, the culture of the company, some will say, no, we really just want you and your slides. And then we'll have a chat box monitor that will tell you what questions and comments are coming up. And then to the other extreme, they'll say, we want everybody on camera during the whole time. And we're fine with people unmuting themselves and asking questions. So a lot of times it has to do with the organization itself, what they're most comfortable with. I can go either way. I like a lot of interaction, but I also have to respect that in some cases, they might not be used to doing that. And so they would rather watch and listen more than speak.
You know, it's interesting, Duffie. We've done so many of these videos and we've talked about leaders that are using this, even just in their normal business day. A lot of similar practices are being needed and they have to really think through, because trying to reach teammates over the use of video conferencing, I could see a lot of what Tricia's sharing in terms of needing to do the same thing, leaning in, making sure that you're an active listener.
That's right. And I think we touched on it. We are going to do another one of these, Tricia. You've been gracious enough to come back with us because we've mentioned slides. This is something we really need to talk about because this is something people are just now starting to orientate themselves toward, right? So you're going to give us our, why should we tune in next time with slides?
Oh, I've got some pet peeves around slides.
Okay.
So I'll get to vent a little bit around that and hopefully help people.
All right. Well, join us next time. Dun, dun, dun. That's right. Thank you so much for joining us, Tricia. And again, presenting on video conferencing. It's a whole new world. I think the technology is not going anywhere. Am I right, Aaron?
No, it's not. It's here to stay.
It is.
We'll see you next time.